Hello, everybody. Welcome to the June episode of Longbox here on the Splash Network. I'm Chris. I'm joined by Joe and Campbell. I'm Thor, I guess.
Yeah.
He's Chris or
Yes.
Campbell, and that's Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah, that works for me.
That's to confuse people. So anyway, this month we're talking about Wonder Woman Earth 1, written by Grant Morrison. This was the fourth character that they did the Earth 1 treatment to, but I'm not sure how many books there was, because there's a volume 1 and 2 for Superman. But it started with Superman, right? Earth 1, these really nice prestige hardcover books, self-contained, and they kind of do a little bit different takes on the traditional stories. And that's what we'll talk about here.
I'm sorry, Thor, before we jump in, just real quick, because I don't notice, because this is my first one reading it. I've heard of Earth 1 forever, but now this was a spin on Wonder Woman's basically origin story. Are the other Earth 1 books, like Superman, Batman, the same way, or do they pick other kind of stories?
They're the same way. I've only read Earth 1 Batman.
And that was his origin as well?
It went back to his origin, too. And that was the one where, oh, man, it's been a long time since I read it. But I'm pretty sure that's where, like, Alfred being, like, a real badass came from.
Right, when he was in the military, and he was more Cockney English than proper English, yeah. Okay.
Right, yeah, so there was Superman, there was Batman, there was Teen Titans, Wonder Woman, and then Superman and Batman both have two, and Teen Titans have 2 volumes.
2 volumes, okay.
For this one, yeah. I'm not sure if there's going to do another one for Wonder Woman or not. So, let's start with the writer, right? So this was written by Grant Morrison, who honestly made me a little bit nervous to pick this one to read, because sometimes Grant Morrison stuff, I'll admit, I get confused.
Yes.
Really?
But this one's pretty easy. Have you guys read anything Grant Morrison? Anything comes up your favorites?
Arkham Asylum.
I read that. Rose let me borrow that.
Yeah, that was on another prestigious format too. I have that one hardcover.
Yeah.
I think I read the Dark Knight Legends, the Gothic story issues from issue 6 to 10 when they did the Dark Knight. I've heard about Justice League Earth 2, the graphic novel. I've never read any of his X-Men stuff. I mean, this guy crosses the board. I mean, he's a legend, right? He's done Animal Man. He's done the Arkham Asylum book. He did Doom Patrol, which is now in a resurgence by another group of guys. Like I said, Batman Legends of the Dark Knight. He did the Vertigo imprint, the multiple titles for Vertigo, which is a DC, like an offshoot from DC. Justice League of America, The Flash. And then Marvel, he jumps in and he only writes for X-Men, the new X-Men, Planet X. And then he comes back to DC and does Justice League Classified. Messes around with Frankenstein, because DC has Frankenstein comics, if you didn't know that, yeah. And
I used to collect some of those.
Yep, Zatanna. All-Star Superman. I also read All-Star Superman.
That's what I wanted to talk
Yeah.
to. Like, that was my introduction to Grant Morrison.
Okay.
And I love All-Star Superman. I absolutely love it.
He also reintroduces Damian Wayne into the story arc, only to kill him in 2013. So he
created Damian Wayne.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And then he killed him in 2013 in Batman Incorporated. Batman Incorporated was a cool story. Basically, what it was that Bruce Wayne funded Batman around the world. So now it was not just one Batman. There was Bruce Wayne in Gotham, but then there's people in England and France and stuff like that were Batman. And that's why it was called Batman Incorporated. So he's had a long stretch with DC as well as Marvel. And then the art's by who again now, Thor?
It's by Yannick Paquette, if I could be butchering his name, but
Paquette?
I believe that's how it's pronounced.
He's just
Paquette?
he's almost too much to tell you what he's done.
We did Batman Incorporated.
Yep.
I know that.
Justice League of America, Wonder Woman.
He's done a lot.
A ton.
Yeah.
And then Marvel, he jumps in there too with Avengers. I mean, we're talking top titles: Civil War, X-Men, Ultimate X-Men, Avengers, Wolverine. He's been everywhere. Done a ton of covers too. Swamp Thing, I figured he did 1 through 18, all the covers for Swamp Thing.
On
DC Comics 2012. So that must have been New 52.
New 52.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Those are. I actually tweeted something about that before, because those were all on sale on Comixology. Scott Snyder wrote those. They're really good. You should go pick those up. Anybody who's listening.
Awesome.
Another one thing that you didn't mention that I thought you would have is he wrote the Batman R.I.P. story.
Yes.
Grant Morrison.
Yes.
Which is like my go-to example as far as like something that I've had to read more than once to try to like grasp it all. You know, maybe I'm alone here, but that one was like a little bit confusing for me.
When he writes his story arc over multiple issues, there's more chances you have to read something over again. When, like you said, this is a self-contained story, it's pretty much, finishes when you're done with this. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I didn't find anything too confusing in it.
No, although there was things that I caught, the third time I read it that I didn't catch the first 3 times, and
Yeah, I mean, I have questions that I'll ask you during it, or if we can even answer them together. But first of all, before we dive into it, I just want to know what everybody think of the comic book.
So I liked it a lot. I bought it. I just grabbed it one day. I don't know where I was, and I read it. And then I read it again before the movie came out, and then I've read it twice since. I think my first impressions on reading it, I thought it was good, but I didn't love it. But after reading it a couple more times, I really like it a lot.
Okay. Joe?
I enjoyed it. It was like the Spark Notes version of the movie. I love the drawing in this one. Not because there's like mainly females, but just because the artwork is artwork is artistic. But no, just a lot of detail goes into it. The way that it's written, they use the rope in between some of the frames and the boxes and stuff for different tiles and stuff. They intertwine. It was sometimes off-putting because you don't know where to follow in the story. But I'm guessing that happens in other comics because don't forget this is only the 5th one that I'm reading of the graphic novel versions. So I enjoyed it though.
This is my first time reading it. I only read it once. It didn't really do anything for me. So I'm not saying I hate it. I thought the art was really good, and I thought the dialogue was really good, but the story to me didn't. And it's also, too, it's probably not fair. I mean, Joe was reading it after he saw the movie, too, so it's like 2 different people, because I just saw the movie as well, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, well, I just saw this in the movie with a lot more action. There was really no action in this comic book at all,
That's true. I mean, it's funny that you bring that up. It's not something that bothered me, but does she throw a punch in this book?
No.
She lifts up a Jeep.
She lifts the Jeep up. She attacks her girlfriend, as she says, her lover. So she attacks her girlfriend. Yeah, Mala. Which, to me, I thought was hysterical that for 3,000 years, she has to fake lose to her every time they had this festival because that's the way it was done. And then finally, she decides that she doesn't want to lose anymore, So, and they're all mad at her for doing it, which is, we'll dive deep into it. Yeah, so, I mean, there wasn't a ton of action, and I just didn't really get. I saw the struggle between Wonder Woman's mom and Wonder Woman in the movie, and I thought the struggle between them was better depicted in the movie than it was in the book. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And again, I saw the movie first, so that might have something to do with it. You know what I mean?
I feel like it's also hard to put that much dialogue into the comic sometimes.
Well, especially when you're doing a story like this, you're reinventing you're reimagining the origin story, and you're also doing it in a one shot that's got a limited amount of pages you can do it in. So definitely, again, I didn't hate it. I'm sure I'm going to read it again because, like you said, the first time you read it, you said it was good, but it wasn't something that was great to you, and now you read it, you enjoy it more. So that could be also that happens. Like, Batman Year One, I didn't want us to do it that month because I remember finally remembering that I didn't like that, But the last time I read that was after I read for days as a kid. I read The Dark Knight Returns, which is an amazing Frank Miller story, right? So you go from reading that, and then you go to, which is not so much Batman related, even though Batman's in it, because it's more about Jim Gordon. I appreciate it much more after I read it the second time, So that's something I can get back to. But you want to dive in?
Let's dive in.
All right, let's go.
So we open up the book, and we're talking about the artwork, and what Joe was referring to is the layouts of the book and how beautiful they look. And it's the same in this little prelude to the main story where we see Hercules, and he has I can't remember how to say her name.
Oh,
what was it, guys?
No.
Hit the button. Is it still on your screen?
So
Hippolyta. Yeah.
Hippolyta.
Yeah. We use
so
the hell out of that.
He's got her in chains. And
Wonder Woman's mom, the queen of the Amazons. You can go many different ways.
She's in chains. She's in a pit with pigs, which is like not a fun place to be. And for some reason, Hercules has her girdle. So she reclaims the girdle and is able to escape Hercules, chokes him out with chains, and then snaps the chains, and then that's what leads her to go to to create. It sounds like to create Paradise Island and get away from Man's World completely. And she's there for 3,000 years.
Right.
So we don't really.
To go back
What's
into
that?
it, what I noticed right away is if you want to call it the introduction story right before you see Paradise Island.
Oh, the DC filter?
It's very yeah.
Oh,
it's very dark, but that you can understand that. That's why they want to do it, and it's amazing. The art's great, and there's no detail that's unspared. There's detail everywhere, but it's very muted. It's very dark and muted, and then when you flip the page and you see 3,000 later, it's cool, and that's why they did it because that splash page right there. When
it's
you
phenomenal.
jump off,
It feels like
It's like
you're
the
walking
opening
onto
scene
Paradise Island.
when they first zoomed in on Paradise Island and you're looking at everything. It has that same feel to it.
It hits you the same way, where like the contrast there, and then that brings up the point of like their Paradise Island is just gorgeous and phenomenal work. And my favorite thing about it, and this is something that Grant Morrison talked about, he didn't seem to understand why they were still so focused on like Greek technology when they've been around for thousands of years. So he wanted to showcase that they did have technology, and that's why we're seeing the little planes and the healing ray, and they've got guns, that shoot rays.
right.
And I thought that was a fantastic take on it, to get away from the bows and arrows and the swords and to showcase they had technology. And he wanted to showcase, and this is done a lot through depictions of the city, that they have their own culture, they have their own art, and being warriors is just a part of being an Amazon, but they have a lot more to offer, their technologies and their arts. So that's fantastic, and we're allowed to kind of explore around Paradise Island in these first couple pages. And it opens up with Diana coming back. She's in chains. She's being arrested. She's submitting herself to trial. And then we go in to see what has happened, right? So like a lot of every Wonder Woman story, we all know what happens. She goes to Man's World, and Steve Trevor is usually the catalyst. And that's what this one is too. She's bored. I don't know if you guys read it that way.
Yes.
But she is just bored, and we find out why later on. And by the way, anybody listening past this point, probably it's gonna be spoilers. So if you want to find out, please just listen along. It won't ruin the book, but
Since we got yelled at?
but it's gonna be spoilers.
No.
So we find out
You got yelled at.
Whatever. Nonsense. Yeah.
So 3,000 years. Steve Trevor is just the final excuse that she gets, and she takes it. That's what I believe, at least. Why? That's the thing you have to actually, when you're checking out a story, is why now? Like, why does this happen now in this character's life? And that's really the only reason, is that Steve Trevor has crashed there. We find out later on that he was on a mission this time around, pursuing what they refer to as a ghost signal. And it's implied in the book that ghost signal is actually Hippolyta's mirror. The mirror that shows man's world, all their awful stuff. What's that?
Were you expecting that to happen? Like,
That the signal was...
Yeah, from the mirror?
No, not at all.
Well, it kind of makes sense because
it made sense
the
once
mirror
they
is pulling
said
in
it.
from the outside world, but
Yeah.
I didn't like the idea of the mirror too. It was a little too Snow Whitey for me. She's looking into the mirror and stuff. I don't know. It just because of that, I guess. You know what I'm saying? It was new to me. While we're getting this, while she's on trial, on top of one of the buildings, there's a fire pit, and there's two women that are young with one old lady that is watching the trial. My first question to you is, why is there an old lady when everybody else has stayed the same age?
They are called the Fates. So they are different than the Amazonian women. They are there from Greek mythology. They're called the Fates, like I said. But they always have different past, future, and present.
Present, right.
Okay.
So that's the difference of why you have the difference.
The old lady.
And that's why when you see them ever on there, do you remember Hercules, the Disney movie?
Yeah.
The people that shared the same eye? They're also called the Fates in Greek mythology, so it's just a different version of it.
Somehow you tied into a Disney movie.
I didn't expect to, but that's what happened. But I love how anytime you see them come up, you'll have that rope that's there.
Yeah.
And that's to represent the chain of life of like someone's strand of life, and that's why they're always
Did
weaving.
you dive into Wikipedia for this book or something? Did you found all this stuff from?
No, actually, I started to find. I was wondering why because you mentioned earlier, like, why is she old? And I was like, I know there's a reason why she's old.
You looked it up.
And no, I remember the fates. And
Okay.
then I remember all the Greek mythology because I love Greek mythology that follows it.
All right, so that answers that question.
Bingo, yeah, and they're on trial and they're weaving what I think is her fate the whole time as well.
Yes, either her faith or the faith of the Amazons. I couldn't depict which one.
Now, when she's on trial, they go back and forth between.
Was that bothering anybody else besides me?
That they were going back and forth?
That they were going back and forth.
I
so
stayed
much?
with it, so it didn't bother me. You know, I mean, it comes up to a certain point where the trial's present, and then you don't have to go back anymore. But while they were doing that, though, we got to talk about some things that are going on in the background. Diana's got a lot going on in this book with the ladies of the island. There's a couple of them for her, huh? That doctor one with the glasses.
Well, it
Scientist.
seems like
Scientist, yeah.
so these women of Amazonia, presumably they're all lesbians.
I would
I
go.
think it's a fair presumption.
I would
Joe
say so,
has an argument against it that honestly doesn't hold a lot of water.
That's because Joe doesn't believe there's any women that are actually lesbians. He believes you can convert them all.
I don't know how to make this PG.
It's gonna be
I don't know how to make this PG. But if you use certain things, that
They could
changes it.
They've been with the women for nothing but 3,000 years.
They don't know anything else.
But all right, but they're lesbians. As of now, they're lesbians.
No.
If they all leave the island later on and they find their own Steve Trevor, then you can say they're bisexual. We know that Wonder Woman's bisexual. That's been out there. The rest of them only know one thing, so right now they're lesbians.
That just means that they're together with each other. Like they said.
I'm looking at the same pictures you are, and that's just what that means to being together. They got women tied upside down in animal costumes. Do you see that one? And then the next page, belly shots.
Which
Right here.
Okay.
So I would say that they are. I would say romantic love is depicted because it's
I think they're on
it's
rotations.
revealed. They're what?
They're on rotations. They just choose
Rotations?
Like I
Well,
feel
3,000 years is a long
like
time
having
for
intellectual yeah, right?
Well, like I said,
You
I
can't
think
be
there's
with-
something between her and the doctor, and then she announces that the actual Wonder Woman was her lover. She comes right out and says, "I had to defy my lover to get to get off of this island." You remember that?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's no doubt. I don't know how you guys read it, but there's no doubt that her and Mala are in a relationship.
Yes.
And then it's revealed that the Queen's sort of sidekick, I guess, or second in command. I think her name was Nubia.
Yes. For Nubian Queen, because she's black.
She's in love.
Deep stretch for those guys coming up with names,
I'm
right?
telling you, bro.
she's in love, or at the very least has strong feeling towards Diana, right? When she's chasing her through the woods, she smells Diana's perfume, and she says that the devotion to Hippolyta is strained by this perfume.
Hold on, I got something for you. Maybe.
Hippolyta.
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 So we can all pronounce it properly, or at least hope to. And then there's a thing where she's with the doctor, whose name escapes me, but the doctor says to her clearly that she's jealous of Mala,
Right.
right? In like a fun way, not in a malicious way. But I think those three things there like indicate that there's, for at least some of the women of Amazonia, there is some sense of like monogamous relationship. If not, they might still have sexual partners with the other women as
All the
well.
time. There's no way you can with every single one of them being hot. There's not a way.
All right. Joe could dive deep in his own episode about the Paradise Island.
Oliver, yeah. Go ahead, continue. There's just no way. Please.
So Steve Trevor comes, and she's never seen a man before, and she finds him. Nobody else finds him. That sparks her curiosity. She goes, she steals the healing ray. She tries to heal Steve Trevor up. It doesn't work. Okay, and then she decides this way of like getting him to Man's World and finally going there herself. But she, like I said, she just wants an excuse, in my opinion, to go, and Steve Trevor's the excuse.
What time period is it in the outside Man's World?
I would say modern day.
Okay.
But did you think something else?
When I mean, I think it's modern day, but if you just look at when Steve Trevor lands on the island, his uniform doesn't look too modern for me.
No, it doesn't.
It looks more like 70s, maybe even early 80s. But
the
I thought Vietnam War myself. But then we find out that he was actually tracking the ghost signal. First of all, before we even get off of that, Steve Trevor in this issue. First time and last time that he was black?
Yes, only because Grant Morrison, in his words directly, I found it. Steve Trevor was always sort of this boring, blonde, blue-eyed dude that just didn't cut it in the modern world. I wanted some diversity, but I also thought it was a much more potent idea to have Steve Trevor as a black man. It has much more powerful in the context of everything that Martinson was doing and everything that Wonder Woman is about. About the story about her being in chains and bondage, and that's how they related it back to him now being able to understand her about being in chains and bondage from slavery. So that's why he actually made him black. There was a reasoning for it. So
exactly, yeah, and that's a good pull. It's not just for diversity reasons, although I'm sure they didn't mind making the comic a little more diverse. Yeah. But there is a story sense to it that he comes from a race of people who have also been oppressed.
Yeah,
obviously, and he talks about it. He talks about it when he's finally brought to Paradise Island and put through the lasso of truth.
Through the lasso of truth. I would have lied for you no matter what, because to be like that was great.
And for me, I mean, that is interesting, and I had a little bit of a tough time with that. You have to know the character of Steve Trevor, but it is interesting that this soldier who's, you'd think committed to his government and to his higher ups, just so quickly, lies to them to help out.
Yeah, I thought that
he
was
doesn't even know.
Right.
I'm not saying it's completely out of his character to do that, but I don't know if we got enough reason. Like, yes, Wonder Woman saved his life, but at the same time, the other women just came in and turned everybody to stone. And, well, I guess that was after he had already lied to his superiors. But I don't know. I thought him being so quick to, lie to his superiors was a little bit weird.
Well, I mean, we're not relating them back to the movie, but they are both, because they're kind of one and the same. But even when she first gets there, he's trying to accommodate her and, entwine her with the world that they're currently living in. And knowing that where he came from and no one would believe it, and he knows that people would go and find them and take over the planet. So, I mean, her
or
island,
try to, or die trying.
Or die trying.
Yeah, it would start a war,
So I think he probably saw it in a different method than everybody else would normally have. So I didn't notice that, actually. That's weird. You had that same thought.
So her plan to get off the island, she's going to compete in these games that she's it's almost like professional wrestling, like it's rigged. She wears the Hercules mask, which is the lion's head.
Right.
And she's supposed to lose to Mala, who's the champion of New Spartan. And that's another interesting thing, is that there's 2 cities, at least, on Paradise Island. And this is the first time that I know of that happened. There's New Athena and New Sparta, I believe.
I saw that. But you're not allowed to battle New Athena or New Spartan because they're afraid that they would rip her apart. I can't remember which one it was.
They come from New Athena, sister city to New Sparta.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So anyway, she's supposed to lose this, and she doesn't. She takes Mala down. And
also, sorry, Chris, Mala is referred to as Wonder Woman beforehand, which I thought really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I like how they did that.
You're right. Yeah, we get a little bit of a sense of that's a word that's being used on Paradise Island. It's not just a word that's being used on Man's World.
Right.
And so she wins. And Mala's upset, and she talks about how Diana has abilities that the rest of the Amazonians don't have, and that nobody could beat her. And to her credit, the Queen, awards her the winner, grants her wish. She, for some reason, asks for Mala's plane. Well, they refer to it as a robot plane, but it looks like an invisible plane. And she's furious at Diana, obviously.
But she still grants the wish.
But she does, but she still, grants the wish, exactly. And she goes. but she's not allowed to leave the island. So everyone's threatening, well, we're going to shoot you down if you try to leave, and she does have to outrun them. I believe, personally, and this is just what I'm projecting onto the book, because they do take shots at her, but I believe in a way they let her go.
Oh, I do too.
The Wonder Woman movie shows that she is just beloved by all of the women of Amazonia.
Yes.
And I think we can safely say she's around 3,000 years old, because I'm going to assume that Hippolyta made her right after confronting Hercules and starting up, when she was still raged. So that being said, though, you spend that much time with somebody, are you really going to try to shoot him down, or you know what I mean? But anyway, she escapes, and then.
Well, I think everybody. Sorry, but doesn't
No,
everybody else know that she has these powers, and that's why she's not able to fight?
Everybody knows that she has special abilities due to her creation. What nobody knows, except for Hippolyta, is that she's the daughter of Hercules as well.
Okay.
That she wasn't molded from clay, and like the story that she's been given her whole life, which is the actual story of Wonder Woman that we see like in the comics that precede it. So she steals the plane, and then fast forward, she takes Steve Trevor to a hospital, and there she's confronted with kind of some of the ugliness that has to do with man's world. And she sees the women there; they all look strange to her because they're not, Greek goddesses. And there's different races, different body types, different, heights. And she sees the women dying there, and she's just outraged at, like, how are we letting this happen? And she sees the old woman there, and she talks about how her knowledge will be lost forever, and her wisdom, which is really sweet. It shows that that's something that's really valued in her culture.
Right.
At the same time, Hippolyta's pissed. She releases Medusa to man's world to,
Well, the first thing she does is release a storm, right? So,
right.
And that's the first time. So the little bit of action we had so far was them chasing Wonder Woman in the woods when she was pretending to be Hercules, and you find out that they've never caught her in 30. They use the term 30 centuries, which is 3,000 years. Then the next action you see is her jumping off the kangaroo and tackling her girlfriend Mala to win the thing, and now we see her stop a bus from swerving off a bridge, right?
Well, she's in the hospital first.
Right. Okay, sorry.
Then she goes.
Yes.
The military has arrived, and they confront this woman, and that's where she picks up the Jeep. There's a really funny. It's funny and it's true, but she goes, "These are men. They look to me like girls, sweet and beardless, youthful, round-eyed faces, made to kiss, not harm or hurt." That's how she describes, the soldiers, which I thought was interesting. She doesn't do anything. She shows that she's clearly stronger and more powerful than them, but she doesn't do anything to them. There's no fighting. Like I said, I don't think she throws a punch in this whole book.
No.
Doesn't swing a sword or nothing like that. So then she's leaving, and this is where we meet Beth Candy, who you guys know from the film, right?
Oh, she's the secretary.
Exactly. Yeah. She's a one version of that character.
I didn't get that till right now.
No, don't. Yeah, it's not. You wouldn't.
I'm mad that I read this whole book and I had no idea. I didn't think about that.
When he said that, I just said to myself, I dialed the movie, like the whole movie in my head from the island. I'm like, the only other girls. Oh, the secretary. All right.
Good job, Thor. That's why you leave the comic books.
In the comic, she's originally Etta Candy. And I think she's Etta in the film.
Okay.
But she's Beth here. And by the way, there was an article on DC's website that got published right after the Wonder Woman film came out. I might have posted it on the internet, but it's fantastic. It talks about her history, and the different incarnations of that character, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, she becomes like a lot more like tough as like the years went on, and she eventually has a relationship with Steve Trevor, and there's a lot of cool, interesting stuff. But this version of her
has a relationship with Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that was in the New 52. I could be mistaken, but that would make sense because during that time, Wonder Woman's with Superman.
Right.
Anyway,
you're right. It is Etta in the movie.
Right. So this version kind of goes back to the original version. She's like how would you describe her?
Fun college girl.
Very fun.
Sorority
Yeah.
sister?
Very fun.
And
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very feminist too. You know,
Feminine?
feminine. No. I mean, pushing for women's rights right away. You could see that.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? That she's takes it to the man. You know, so
She's also kind of a voice of like, in the book of like defending like the average woman to the Amazonians who are like,
All
you know, this is the women of men's world. Like,
Right.
what is this?
yeah, because they all
So-
think they see her and that she's heavy set in this, so they see her and they
Yeah.
say she's deformed and bloated.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and that's the way that they speak about a lot of the women that they see. So the storm causes the bus to crash. Wonder Woman is there to save her. She befriends these women, and that's how we're introduced to that character. And she's later called upon to testify in the trial as well. So that's a good way of like a device for her to like what's the word, interact with man's world for the first time, just the same way it's done in the movie too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where this character is not confronting her in any way. She's curious, and they're talking, and they're discussing, and she's sharing her culture with her, and vice versa.
You know where the book loses me in the trial? Is
Where's that?
when they bring in Beth Candy and Steve Trevor to the trial. I'm like, all right, you're all about keeping this place secret and quiet. Now you're just bringing people back here so everybody can come hang out and talk about everything. That bothered me a little bit.
Well, he says to her, he's like, listen, like, I didn't expose you to the outside world. You did that to yourself.
Right.
Because the Amazons came and tried to take Dana with her, and then
Right.
she just allowed herself to be taken at that point. You know, thinking that she could defend herself.
Right. Well, she allowed herself to be taken. She wanted no more harm to come to the people around her. You know, because
Right, because Medusa
Yep.
had come in, and so she allows herself to be taken, and then that's where we fast forward back to where the book started at the trial, and like I said, Beth is taken, and she gives she testifies, I guess, and so does Steve Trevor for a little bit. I like when she was asking you like, do you lust after my daughter? And he's like, listen, we have a saying, way out of my league.
yeah, that was good. I like that a lot too.
I was like, that was smooth. 'Cause let's be honest, pal. The answer is yes. So then that's it, and then the trial ends, and
Well,
Diana has her mother grab the lasso to tell the truth, and she asks about her origin, and this is the biggest spin on the Wonder Woman tale that Earth One brings here, is that she wasn't made out of clay. She was actually the daughter of Hercules and Hippolyta. So she was, and the reason for this is that, you guys probably heard that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
that's all right.
Yeah, somebody out in the street.
We also heard the invisible plane fly over you too, so don't worry about that either. Yeah, there was a plane going over you.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, so
she's used as like an ultimate weapon. She's forged from Hippolyta's rage is the catalyst that makes her want to have a daughter to use against as a weapon. To use as a weapon against man's world. That's the reason why she's made. And of course, her rage fades in time, and she's just, you know, Hippolyta's daughter.
right.
You know,
But the queen, right at the end, wants to give up the throne because in her mind, if she gives up the throne, whoever's on the throne has to stay on Paradise Island. So to keep her daughter there, she knows if she gives up the throne, then Wonder Woman has to take over the throne. So she gives it up, right? And then the other Amazonians say you can't give it up. It doesn't work like that. You can only go when we say you can go. So
yeah.
you know, she's still trying to the last minute to keep Diana on the island because she does not want her to go to man's world ever again.
Even though she's already been, even though, you know, the blood of man pulses through her, and that's
Right.
one of the things that you kind of realize is calling her off the island is Hercules' blood that's inside of her, that part of her. But it says it was her revenge on Hercules, you know, which is why that first scene with her and Hercules is so important, because that sets up like why they're so anti man's world
Yeah.
and men and all that sort of thing. And that's pretty much as far as the recap of the story goes. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to add to the discussion?
No, I mean, I enjoyed the book, and I actually do think I'm going to read it again because.
Well, I think so too, because the art really catches you a lot, and the rope work between the scenes and stuff.
It's a quick read too.
Yeah, it is. It's fast. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, that's why I've been able to read it a couple times.
You probably read it
Was that?
6 minutes before I got here.
I didn't read it 6 minutes before I got here. I just read it at 3 a.m. Relax.
So I could have texted you. We were both up.
Yeah. I was in the
So
middle.
and I like
Do you like the stuff in the back though?
yeah, it's really cool.
The extra artwork and
Yeah.
the concept
Even
work?
artwork for the action figures back there too.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are like me. Like, I always like seeing how things started. You know, like the early sketches and designs and all that kind of stuff. You know,
I love the sketch of Wonder Woman lifting the truck and how he sketched Wonder Woman's body position first, then sketches the truck over her, then flushes out the whole scene, which I thought was really cool.
All the different covers artwork
Yeah.
that they did.
It's worth the worth the $10 I paid for the book, definitely.
Yeah, mine was worth the 25.
Joe is out there.
We're not going to talk about it because we respect places.
He was gonna say that.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
Joe's out there supporting his local comic book shops by buying from them, and he has to pay a little bit more,
I go to the comic book store
100% more.
bi-weekly.
Yeah,
so
like
I support
100%
them.
more.
Yeah.
Oh, you
I don't know how much
pick
I
up
paid for
single
this.
issues at the stores?
Oh yeah. I go to the
Is
King
yours
twice a month.
hardcover, Campbell, or softcover?
Hardcover.
Oh man.
Yeah, $10.
Yeah, this one I got this one probably
Look at
$28.
that. On the back cover, it says $22.99 USA. And
Wow. Here's the worst part about that.
They put the
They
sticker right
still put it $24.99
over that, so
over
that you
the
couldn't
price.
see it.
What's the name of the store you bought it from?
Oh, we are not going to.
No, I had some
Why
problems.
not? Why not?
Because we had problems with that place, if you remember that whole story. I told
Yeah, and why can't we put them on blast?
you. Yeah, because
Because there might be a day that we might need them.
that's what it comes down to. Once
Never-
they say no, then we'll blast them the whole time. Don't worry about it.
But there might be a day. I don't know what day that might be necessary. And plus, it's still really convenient for me to pick up my comic
That's
books
what it
there.
comes. We don't want to hurt Joe. He can get there.
Cave Comics, 57 Churchill Road.
Yes.
That's where you go. Not this mysterious other place if you're in the greater Danbury area. Go to Cave. Anyway,
All right.
thanks for joining us, everybody. Any final thoughts, guys, on the book?
No, love the artwork. I said I want to give it another shot. I love Grant Morrison. I can read his stuff a lot. So I want to be fair and give it another shot. You know what I mean? So I did finish reading it last night when I couldn't sleep. So that could have been something why I was kind of ornery about it. But, like I said, I liked it. I didn't love it. It just, it didn't attach itself to me. Let's put it that way. So I hope with another read, I grow into it more. Just like you said, too. So what'd you think, Joe?
I do really like this book, graphic novel. The artwork to me is amazing, and not just because the females look amazing, but I love the great artwork, the layout, the splashing between I love how he changed up some of the characters to fit a modern day and age, things that speak to me. Just all of it, and the tie into this to me has a bigger tie into Greek mythology than the movie did.
That's Grant Morrison for you.
Yeah.
He does his research.
You got to read
for
his
sure.
stuff, more of his stuff when you can.
Well,
yeah.
we're still going
I'll give
for
you
much
Arkham
strong.
Asylum. Yeah.
There'll be a time that we can put that on.
Yeah, but I'll give it to you just so you can read it.
Yeah, but that's not happening until I have to. There's such a catalog of
Backstock?
of
All right.
stuff.
Yeah.
All right,
Chris,
everybody. We'll
sign
see you
us off,
next
Thor.
month with probably a Spider-Man story. We're just not 100% sure on which one we're going to pick, but you'll be the first to know. Look for it on the Twitter and the Facebook and the website and all that fun stuff.
All right, guys. You know what to do now. If you made it this far, you're going to subscribe at the top or wherever it is on your YouTube screen. You're also going to subscribe via iTunes because you're listening. This gets dual posted. And you're going to check it out, the full workup, the details, and all the nitty-gritty stuff that we post on our website at thesplashNetwork.com, where you can get the people that wrote it, the link to the Comixology if you want to buy it. And also, since this one is also on Amazon, if you want to get that nice little hard cover, we're going to post a
for
link to the
$11.
Amazon. I'm gonna knock you out. And then you can email us. Let us know how we did all those great things at the Splash Podcast at thesplashnetwork.com. That's super, super long email address. But check us out at Splash_podcast for Twitter. And you can search us on our Facebook. All those links and stuff will be below or on the website. Hey, guys, have a good time, and we'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.
Yeah, have a good month.